In a quiet suburb, the Romano family lived in a charming two-story house with a white picket fence and a well-tended garden. To the outside world, they appeared like any other middle-class family. The parents, Marco and Elena, worked hard to provide for their two children, Mia and Luca. Marco ran a small but successful garage, while Elena was a teacher at the local elementary school. Their days were filled with the usual routines: school drop-offs, weekend soccer games, and family dinners around the table. However, beneath this picture-perfect surface lay secrets that intertwined them with a world far darker than anyone could imagine. Marco had always been a man of few words, but his silence spoke volumes to those who knew him well. He had deep ties to the underground world, connections that he often wished he could escape, but felt unable to do so. The family's financial stability was not solely due to Marco's hard work. Rather, it was often supplemented by unsavory dealings that remained hidden from Elena and the children. Elena loved her husband dearly and trusted him blindly. She believed in their life together and was proud of their family's achievements. Yet sometimes, she caught glimpses of Marco's tension when he thought no one was watching. Late-night phone calls and hushed conversations seemed to carry weight that she couldn't quite grasp, leaving her with a sense of unease she tried to ignore. Mia, the 14-year-old daughter, often found herself daydreaming about life beyond the confines of their suburban existence. She was bright and ambitious, eager to explore the world and uncover its mysteries. Little did she know that lurking beneath her father's stoic exterior was a dangerous web that could ensnare them all. Luca, her younger brother at 10 years old, idolized their father and saw him as a hero. He couldn't understand why his dad sometimes seemed stressed or distracted. All he knew was that Marco always provided for them. Adding to their household was Rosa, the family maid who had worked for them for several years. Rosa was more than just an employee. She was a confidant to Elena and almost like an aunt to Mia and Luca. She kept the home running smoothly and offered advice when needed. However, what the family didn't know was that Rosa held secrets of her own, secrets connected to Marco's past. On many occasions, she had witnessed Marco's dealings from afar. Her loyalty to him came from both respect and fear. She understood how far his connections extended. In her heart, Rosa wanted nothing more than for the Romano family to remain untouched by the darkness surrounding them. One evening, as they gathered for dinner, laughter echoed through their home. The smell of lasagna filled the kitchen, while stories were shared about school and work. In that moment of warmth and joy, no one would have guessed that everything they knew could soon unravel. As they finished their meal, however, an unusual tension arrived, uninvited. A feeling that something was about to change. Marco received an unexpected phone call that left him looking uneasy. He hurriedly excused himself from the table under the pretense of work matters. It seemed innocent enough, but Mia noticed her father's abrupt departure and exchanged worried glances with Rosa. Rosa's heart raced as she recalled recent whispers among the people in Marco's world, rumors that hinted at trouble brewing on the horizon. A chill danced down her spine as she realized they might be teetering on a precipice between normalcy and chaos. Little did they all know that soon enough, their tranquil lives would be shattered by secrets waiting in the shadows, a heavy trunk waiting for its time to be discovered. In the heart of the Romano household, Rosa, the family maid, played a crucial role that extended far beyond her daily duties. She was in her late 50s, with silver-streaked hair pulled back into a neat bun, and warm, kind eyes that often sparkled with understanding. Originally from a small town in Italy, Rosa had moved to America with dreams of a better life. Her journey was filled with hardships and perseverance, shaping her into the strong-willed woman she was today. Rosa had been with the Romanos for almost a decade. She started working for them when Mia was just a baby and Luca had not yet been born. Over time, she became an essential part of their lives, almost like family. Elena often relied on Rosa for advice on parenting and household matters, and she trusted her implicitly. While Marco was reserved, Rosa understood his quiet strength and often caught glimmers of his softer side when he interacted with his children. Both Mia and Luca adored Rosa. To them, she was more than just a maid. She was their confidant and storyteller. They looked forward to her delicious meals and cherished moments spent together in the kitchen. On rainy afternoons, Rosa would curl up on the couch with them, reading stories out loud or sharing tales from her childhood in Italy. She loved to weave lessons of humor and wisdom into her stories, leaving an imprint on their hearts. Despite this bond, Rosa carried secrets that weighed heavily on her conscience. She knew more about Marco's past than what he had shared with Elena or the children. In whispers among the other household staff in their upscale neighborhood, she had overheard conversations hinting at Marco's connections to unsavory individuals involved in the Mafia. Although she admired Marco for his hard work and dedication to his family, she often worried about the dangerous world lurking just outside their front door. Rosa tried to protect the children from this hidden reality. She shielded them from anything that might disrupt their innocent lives while ensuring they found comfort and love in their home. Whenever she noticed tension between Marco and Elena or sensed distress in Mia's thoughtful silences, she felt compelled to step in, not as just a maid, but as someone who cared deeply for all of them. One evening after dinner, while washing dishes in the kitchen, she caught sight of Marco outside through the window, his silhouette framed by dim porch light. He exhibited signs of unrest, crossing his arms tightly as he stared into space with a furrowed brow. As he spoke quietly on his phone, Rosa felt an unsettling tug at her heartstrings. This wasn't just a fleeting moment, but a reflection of something deeper brewing beneath the surface. In that instant, one thought crystallized in her mind. It was time to confront her loyalty to Marco against her duty to protect the Romano family. The risk weighed heavily on her. Speaking out could unravel everything they cherished, or worse yet, put them all in danger. After finishing the dishes, Rosa ventured out to find Marco still standing on the porch, deep in conversation. Hearing snippets of his voice carried by the wind sent shivers down her spine. She felt trapped between two worlds, the real family life inside and the shadowy connections that loomed outside. As these thoughts swirled within her, something about that evening felt different. It marked a turning point not only for Rosa, but for the entire Romano family. With secrets brewing around them like storm clouds ready to burst open with rain, Rosa renewed her resolve to shield them from whatever storm lay ahead while grappling with how long she could keep these secrets hidden before they collided with their lives, especially with what lay inside that mysterious trunk waiting obliviously in their garage. In the world of shadows and whispers, one name commanded respect and fear: Vito the Hawk Moretti. Vito was not just any mafia boss. He was a figure shrouded in both power and mystery. With his piercing blue eyes and slicked-back hair, he exuded an air of confidence that could easily intimidate anyone who crossed his path. His reputation as a strategic thinker and ruthless enforcer earned him the nickname the Hawk, symbolizing his ability to swoop down upon his enemies with precision. Operating from the heart of the city, Vito controlled an extensive network of illegal operations, ranging from gambling to drug trafficking. His reach extended far beyond organized crime. He held sway over local businesses, politicians, and law enforcement officers alike. Those who fell out of favor with him quickly found themselves facing dire consequences, often leaving them wishing they had shown the proper respect. Despite this dark aura, he was known to be charming at social gatherings, working to maintain a facade of a generous philanthropist when it suited his agenda. Vito had first crossed paths with Marco through mutual acquaintances in the underground world. While Marco preferred to keep his head down and focus on his family garage, Vito saw an opportunity to expand his influence within the suburban landscape. Their connection was complicated. Marco was both in awe of Vito's power and anxious about the darker aspects of their dealings. One fateful evening, Vito paid an unexpected visit to the Romano home. He arrived unannounced in a sleek black sedan, flanked by two imposing bodyguards whose presence alone sent tremors through Rosa. As they stepped out, the serene suburban setting felt like it had been eclipsed by a thundercloud. The soft chirping of crickets was replaced by a palpable tension that hung thick in the air. Elena was busy in the kitchen preparing dinner when she heard the car's engine cut off outside. Initially dismissing it as just another visitor, she continued stirring her sauce until she caught sight of Vito's looming figure approaching the door. Anxiety coursed through her as she flashed back to earlier conversations where Marco had hinted at trouble lurking on the horizon. The door creaked open, revealing Vito's charismatic yet commanding presence. "Evening, Mrs. Romano," he greeted with a charming smile that did little to ease her nerves. "Is Marco around? I have some matters to discuss." There was an underlying edge to his tone that made it clear this wasn't just a friendly visit. Elena nodded hesitantly, beckoning him inside while stealing a glance at Rosa, who stood frozen in place, unsure of how to react. The children were in the living room, blissfully unaware of the danger weaving its way into their safe haven. Moments later, Marco emerged from his workshop, his expression shifting immediately upon seeing Vito. They exchanged a firm handshake that lasted too long to be casual, a silent acknowledgement of their shared history, or perhaps a reminder of unsaid debts. As they moved toward the living room for more privacy, Rosa lingered nearby, trying to act busy while her heart pounded in her chest. She had seen enough to know that such visits rarely ended without complications. In hushed tones, Marco and Vito discussed business matters, people disappearing, shipments delayed, and rival gangs encroaching on their territory. Vito's voice carried into the kitchen like a dark omen, punctuated by Marco's occasional replies that dripped with unease. It was clear that this meeting held significant weight, not just for Marco, but for their entire family. Suddenly, Rosa felt a chill run down her spine as she recalled the conversation she'd overheard between the two men during one of Marco's late-night calls. It all tied back to that trunk tucked away in their garage, a secret tied tightly to Vito's interests. As laughter erupted from Mia and Luca in the living room, oblivious to the brewing storm, Rosa realized that their illusion of a normal family life was fragile at best. Little did they know that Vito's presence would set off a chain reaction that would soon turn their lives upside down, forcing them to confront the hidden truths concealed within their seemingly perfect existence, and within that ominous trunk waiting quietly in darkness. The trunk appeared in the Romano garage one chilly autumn evening, just as the leaves began to pile up outside. It wasn't there before, and its sudden presence gave Rosa an eerie feeling, one that she couldn't quite shake. Crafted from thick wood and bound with tarnished metal straps, the chest seemed to hold an inexplicable weight that went beyond its physical size. Its dark surface was scratched and worn, suggesting it had seen many years, and perhaps many secrets, before arriving at its current home. Rosa first noticed the trunk while tidying up the clutter in the garage, a space filled with forgotten tools, crates, and boxes of holiday decorations that had not been opened in years. The other items faded into the background, but the trunk dominated her thoughts. Curiosity mingled with caution. Whatever lay inside felt wrong somehow. It was as if it didn't belong to their family at all, but rather had been dropped there from some distant, troubling past. Over the next few days, whispers began circulating among the household as small clues emerged about the trunk's origins. It sparked Mia's interest more than once, and she would often inquire about it with wide-eyed curiosity during family dinners. "What's inside that giant trunk, Rosa?" she would ask, while Luca nodded eagerly. But Rosa would offer only vague answers, changing the subject skillfully, an instinct to keep them away from whatever dark truths were tied to it. Children in the neighborhood whispered rumors at school, too. Some claimed it belonged to a treasure hunter, while others insisted it was filled with old pirate loot. But Rosa knew better. The truths surrounding it were far less innocent. Secrets involved in the trunk weren't stories for children's amusement. Each rumor was like a thread woven into a larger tapestry of unease that seemed to linger around their home ever since it arrived. To make matters worse, there were times when Rosa overheard conversations that hinted at danger brewing nearby. Marco's late-night calls sometimes carried words that sent chills down her spine. Remarks about hidden shipments and unexpected arrivals. She saw how Marco occasionally cast anxious glances toward the garage when he thought no one was looking. It dug deeper into her fears about the trunk and what loomed behind it. The air turned thick with tension inside the Romano home as discussions began to swirl around late-night dinners concerning family safety and security. Marco and Elena took spare care to shield Mia and Luca from their worries, but an unspoken fear hung over their heads like a storm cloud, especially after Vito Moretti's visit. Despite everyone trying to act normal, Rosa approximated a burgeoning storm. She sensed it in every passing glance and hushed tone shared between Marco and Elena. The trunk wasn't just a piece of unwanted furniture. It was a harbinger of something darker waiting just out of reach. One day, after school, Mia trotted into the garage as if drawn by an invisible force. Rosa rushed after her, panic bubbling within every step she took. "Mia, you shouldn't be in here," she exclaimed, catching up just as Mia reached for the trunk's latch. "What's so secretive about it? Why can't I see?" Mia questioned earnestly. Rosa hesitated, seeing the fire of inquiry in Mia's eyes and realizing that her protective instincts might ultimately do more harm than good. Still terrified of what might come next, she tried to redirect her young charge's attention with tales of sunny days at the park, with friends or baking cookies together. But every joyful attempt fell short against the looming shadow of that trunk. By then, it was clear to Rosa that the time would soon come when they could no longer ignore what lay hidden within that chest. Answers beckoned to be uncovered from their dark confinement. The knowledge weighed heavily upon her shoulders, a secret that needed revealing before it exploded in consequences no one was prepared to face. Little did they all know how close they were to discovering the truth about what lay waiting inside, and how that very truth could shatter their lives forever. The weight of the moment bore down on Rosa as she stood in the dimly lit corner of the Romano family's living room, her heart pounding in her chest. After Vito Moretti's visit, she felt an urgency to address the looming threat posed by the trunk in the garage. The tension had escalated, and it was clear that what lay inside that chest was more than just a family secret. It was something that could spell disaster for everyone involved. That evening, after Marco and Vito concluded their conversation, Rosa took a deep breath and decided to confront the Mafia boss. Waiting for him to step out into the hallway, she felt a mixture of fear and determination. She knew that this encounter could either protect her beloved family or plunge them deeper into darkness. As Vito emerged from Marco's office, he caught sight of Rosa standing there, her hands clasped nervously in front of her. The light from overhead cast shadows across his sharp features, emphasizing the intensity in his piercing blue eyes. "What is it?" he asked, bemused yet intrigued by her presence. "Mr. Moretti," Rosa began hesitantly, "I need to speak with you about what's inside that trunk." Her voice trembled slightly, but she pressed on. "It's not safe for anyone to see it, especially not Mia or Luca." Vito raised an eyebrow at her unexpected boldness. "And why should I care about what's in a simple trunk?" he replied with a mix of amusement and annoyance. "It's just furniture." Rosa took a step closer, lowering her voice to ensure no one else could hear. "You don't understand. It might look like just furniture to you, but it holds much more than that." She hesitated briefly before continuing. "I overheard Marco's late-night calls. He's been talking about shipments and dealings you're involved in. That trunk, it's connected." Vito remained silent for a moment, studying her with an intensity that made Rosa feel exposed, yet resolute. "You're saying there are things inside that trunk that could cause trouble for me?" he asked thoughtfully. "Yes," she affirmed quickly, sensing she had his attention now. "If Mia or Luca were to stumble upon it, they wouldn't understand what they were looking at. The innocence of children cannot comprehend the darkness tied to your world." A flicker of understanding crossed Vito's face as he considered her words. He leaned back against the wall casually, but Rosa felt an unspoken challenge in his posture, a test of her loyalty and wisdom. "So what do you suggest I do?" he queried. "Keep it hidden," she pleaded earnestly. "Ensure nobody opens it, not even Marco if you can help it. It could spark something dangerous." Each word felt heavy with urgency as she spoke. Vito chuckled softly to himself before meeting her gaze again with newfound respect mixed with caution. "You've got guts. I'll give you that," he said finally. "But remember, secrets have a way of coming out eventually." Rosa nodded solemnly. She understood all too well how precarious their situation was becoming. "Just promise me," she urged. "Don't let them see what's in the trunk." With that warning hanging heavily between them like thick fog obscuring clarity, Vito regarded Rosa with an inscrutable expression, before turning away and heading toward the door. As the door clicked shut behind him, Rosa leaned against the wall and closed her eyes briefly, letting out a breath she hadn't realized she had been holding. There was no guarantee that Vito would heed her warning. His world operated on a different set of rules where danger lurked around every corner. But for now, Rosa had done what she could to protect Mia and Luca from whatever lay hidden within that trunk's ominous confines, at least until fate dictated otherwise. With each passing moment, however, she couldn't shake off the feeling that time was running short, and their fragile safety rested on a knife's edge, one they might soon plummet from if they weren't careful enough to navigate their dark realities carefully ahead. In the days following Rosa's urgent conversation with Vito, an air of tension settled over the Romano household that felt almost palpable. Each family member seemed to sense the change, though none dared to speak of it directly. Instead, they exchanged furtive glances filled with unspoken questions and growing suspicions. Mia and Luca, who were usually carefree and full of laughter, found themselves embroiled in a whirlwind of curiosity. They noticed their parents' hushed conversations at the dinner table, where Marco and Elena leaned closer together, whispering about topics that were clearly meant to remain private. The children watched carefully from across the table, sharing puzzled looks as their parents attempted to maintain a facade of normalcy while shadows loomed in the corners of their minds. "Mia, do you think something is up with the trunk?" Luca asked one afternoon as they played in the living room. His innocent question punctured the silence that had overtaken them since Rosa's warning had first cast a shadow over their spirits. "I don't know," Mia replied thoughtfully, her brow furrowing. "But it seems like everyone is acting strange about it. Remember how Rosa looked when she warned Dad? It was like she was scared." The thought hung between them like an unanswered riddle. Curiosity bubbled within Mia. She felt an undeniable urge to uncover whatever mystery lay hidden beneath the heavy lid of that trunk in the garage. With every passing day, whispers at school fueled their imaginations. Rumors about hidden treasures and secret maps danced on their tongues during recess breaks, drawing them deeper into a web of intrigue. Meanwhile, Rosa did her best to continue with her daily duties while battling her own anxiety regarding the trunk. She could see the growing suspicion in Mia's eyes reflected every time she passed by them in their cheerful chatter or when she offered them snacks after school. Her heart sank further each time she caught a fleeting glance between Marco and Elena. They seemed united in their silent concern, but drifting apart into their own thoughts. One evening after dinner, while clearing the table, Rosa overheard Marco chuckling nervously about the rumors spreading like wildfire in their neighborhood. Elena responded with an edge of worry in her voice, suggesting they should talk to the kids before they heard even more wild stories from friends at school. "What do we tell them? That there's nothing to worry about?" Marco replied incredulously as he glanced toward the garage. "Rosa may be right. They should not see what's inside that trunk." The exchange sent chills along Rosa's spine. It became abundantly clear that family members were feeling increasingly uneasy about what lay hidden away. The very trunk that had seemed like an innocent piece of furniture just days earlier now transformed into an ominous presence looming over their lives, an anchor pulling them closer towards chaos. Later that week, as dusk painted the sky with shades of orange and purple, Mia impulsively decided to venture into the garage under the pretense of searching for her bicycle helmet. When she opened the door to find herself face to face with the trunk, her heart raced at the thought of finally uncovering its secrets. But before she could even approach it, she heard footsteps behind her. Luca had followed her without her knowing. "What are you doing?" he whispered urgently, his eyes darting toward the trunk, wide with fear and excitement. "I just want to take a peek," Mia replied softly as she crept closer, her hands trembling ever so slightly. Then suddenly, Rosa appeared at the entrance of the garage, catching them both off guard. "Mia! Luca! What are you doing here?" Her voice was firm yet laced with concern. "We were just looking for something," Mia stammered, caught off guard by Rosa's sudden appearance. "Just stay away from that trunk," she urged quickly but gently. "You don't want to get involved with things you don't understand." As she ushered them back toward the house under a veil of soft reprimand, Rosa couldn't help but feel that time was running out. The children's curiosity was only amplifying their family's unease. Soon, they would demand answers that might be impossible to give without revealing truths better left buried deep within that heavy chest. With each day that passed, and every secret glance exchanged among family members, it became clearer. Something was going to happen, and soon they would be forced to confront whatever darkness lay hidden inside. As days turned into weeks, the tension within the Romano household escalated, wrapping around its members like an unseen fog that refused to lift. Each passing day brought a growing sense of unease, and the air was thick with unspoken fears and apprehensions. The once vibrant laughter of children faded into whispers, while Marco and Elena exchanged furtive glances steeped in worry, their conversations more cryptic than ever. Mia and Luca's curiosity about the mysterious trunk had blossomed into an all-consuming obsession. Every time they passed by the garage, eyes wide with intrigue, they felt a magnetic pull toward the heavy chest. "What's inside?" Mia would muse aloud during dinner, her innocent chatter cut short by their parents' pleading looks that begged for silence. "It's just an old trunk," Marco would insist vaguely, a little too sharply for comfort, which only intensified their resolve to uncover its secrets. Meanwhile, Rosa dutifully went about her chores, but found it increasingly difficult to maintain her composure in the face of growing tension. She noticed how Marco seemed distracted. He often stared off into space, lost in thought as if grappling with invisible chains. There were evenings when he would leave unexpectedly after dinner for business, a phrase that hung ominously in the air and sent a chill down Rosa's spine. Unable to shake off her own anxiety about the trunk, Rosa sought refuge in routine tasks, cleaning dishes, fluffing cushions, but each mundane chore felt heavier than the last. Her mind would invariably wander back to Vito Moretti's chilling demeanor during their last encounter and the promises she had made about protecting Mia and Luca. With each lingering glance toward the garage, she felt trepidation lapping at her heels. One night, while they sat around a dimly lit table for dinner, an unusual silence fell upon them as seconds ticked maddeningly by. Mia tried to lighten the mood with stories from school about things as trivial as ridiculous lunchbox contents or funny teachers, but laughter felt forced and hollow amidst the weighty atmosphere surrounding them. "Is everything okay?" she finally asked, after witnessing the strained looks exchanged between her parents. It was a question that hung in the air like an uninvited guest. "Everything is fine," Elena replied quickly, but the slight tremor in her voice betrayed her calm facade. Marco nodded absently, but didn't meet his children's eyes. Instead, he glanced pointedly towards the garage door. Mia caught that glance and sensed something deeper swirling beneath her parents' reassurances. Overwhelmed with curiosity and concern, she felt compelled to probe further. "Can I see it? Just once?" She pressed boldly, despite knowing Rosa's warnings echoing in her mind. "Mia!" Marco exclaimed before he could catch himself. The sudden outburst stunned everyone into silence. "You don't need to think about that trunk. It is simply not our concern." Luca looked nervously between his sister and father, while Rosa moved closer to intervene gently before emotions boiled over. "Why don't we play a game?" she suggested lightly, attempting to diffuse the charged moment with a hopeful smile. They settled upon playing board games later that evening, an exercise meant to foster some sense of normalcy amid escalating unrest. But even during this distraction, hints of anxiety lingered just below the surface. Furtive glances continued to be exchanged between Marco and Elena throughout their playful banter. It became glaringly evident that whatever lay hidden behind closed doors was becoming unbearable to conceal. As night fell and shadows crept across corners of the home, both children found it more challenging to keep their curiosity at bay. They bonded over whispered conspiracies during midnight snacks. They theorized wildly about what treasures or dangers might be concealed within that trunk. Mia threw out ideas ranging from pirate loot to secret messages from long-lost relatives, each idea fanned by excitement, yet grounded in rising fear about what could genuinely lie inside those wooden walls. The barriers built around truth began crumbling under relentless questioning, anticipation intermingled with dread like two specters dancing chaotically together. As secretive glances turned into determined stares between family members whenever thoughts shifted toward that trunk, it became obvious. Something inevitable loomed closer, secrets yearning for free expression, and soon everyone would have no choice but to confront reality, no matter how painfully raw it may prove to be. The night had set in with a ferocity that mirrored the growing tension within the Romano household. Rain lashed against the windows, each drop a reminder of nature's fury outside as thunder rumbled ominously in the distance. The wind howled like a restless spirit, sending shivers down Rosa's spine as she walked through the dimly lit hallway toward the garage, her mind heavy with worry. After dinner, things had grown quieter than usual. Marco and Elena had retreated to their room, presumably to discuss deeper matters that they would not share with Mia and Luca. The children had been sent to bed early after Rosa caught them whispering conspiracies about the trunk. She half expected them to sneak out again during the stormy night, driven by curiosity and a yearning for adventure. As she neared the garage, Rosa heard a sudden crash of thunder that rattled the house, causing her to pause. She took a deep breath, reminding herself that she couldn't let fear dictate her actions. She needed to check on the trunk. It felt as if it was calling out to her amidst the storm. With tentative steps, she opened the creaky garage door, and an unsettling chill seemed to seep from within. The trunk sat ominously in its corner, shadows flickering across its surface from the low light of a single bulb hanging overhead. Even in this weather, something felt wrong, something beyond just fear or foreboding. Suddenly, as Rosa stepped closer, she noticed a faint glow emanating from beneath the trunk. It was subtle, almost imperceptible amidst the sounds of rain filtering through the garage ceiling. Intrigued, yet alarmed, Rosa knelt down for a better look. Just then, another clap of thunder erupted outside, and in that instant of distraction, she lost her balance and bumped into the trunk. To her shock, it shifted slightly on its base and emitted an odd sound, a dull thud followed by what could only be described as something shifting inside it. Panic surged through her veins. Had something been placed inside recently? Or was it merely an echo of her imagination fueled by ramblings of wild speculation? Her heart raced as she considered what secrets it might hold and how those secrets could jeopardize everything she worked so hard to protect. The sound echoed once more, a scraping noise this time, as though something was trying to escape within those dark confines. Unable to quell her curiosity any longer, Rosa reached out and grasped the latch on the trunk. Her fingers trembled around its rusted grip. Before she could open it fully, a voice shattered her focus. "Rosa, what are you doing?" Startled, she turned to find Luca standing at the doorway, his wide eyes reflecting both fear and fascination, illuminated by flashes of lightning outside. I was just checking on something," Rosa stammered, trying desperately to regain composure while suppressing her own racing heart. Luca approached cautiously, peeking around her shoulder at the trunk looming ominously before them. "Is that it? The thing everyone is worried about?" he asked in hushed tones. Rosa swallowed hard, but nodded slowly. "Yes," she admitted softly but firmly. "But you shouldn't be here." "Why?" he pressed innocently yet determinedly. "Because you don't know what could be inside," she replied urgently, feeling panic rise within her as thunder rolled above once more. "It's better if you stay away from things you don't understand." In that moment of vulnerability shared between them during the storm's fury outside, Luca's brow furrowed with concern as he examined Rosa's expression. He could see her fear mirrored in his own heart. With uncertainty hanging heavily in the air like charged particles before a storm breaks fully, Rosa felt compelled to shield him from whatever dark truth lay poised on the brink of discovery. But just then, a loud crack of thunder drew her attention back toward the trunk. Something shifted again inside it, a jarring reminder that their secrets were alive and waiting beneath its ominous surface, threatening not just their peace, but their very lives as well. With their world teetering precariously on an edge blurred between curiosity and danger, Rosa knew this storm could reveal more than just rain. It could expose all they tried so hard to hide behind walls cloaked in silence and uncertainty. "Let's go back inside," Rosa insisted gently but firmly, while ushering Luca away from that terribly tempting threshold before night fell deeper into chaos. A chaos they were all desperately trying to outrun, even as it closed in on them ever more tightly around the corners of their lives. The storm continued to rage outside, its ferocity matching the tumult within the Romano household. That night, the urge to uncover the truth about the mysterious trunk reached a fever pitch. Rosa, after ushering Luca away from its intimidating presence earlier, could no longer suppress her own curiosity and dread. It felt as if a weight had dropped into the pit of her stomach. The secrets held within that heavy chest needed to be faced. Tonight. When Marco and Elena finally joined Rosa and the children in the living room, after what felt like hours of silence, tension filled the space like thick smoke. "We can't stay in fear any longer," Rosa announced abruptly, surprising even herself with how firmly she spoke. "We need to see what's inside that trunk." Mia's eyes widened with anticipation, while Luca exchanged nervous looks between his siblings and Rosa. "Are you sure?" Marco asked hesitantly, his voice betraying uncertainty. Elena bit her lip, exchanging glances with her husband, weighing their fears against the reality of facing what lay hidden. "We can't keep pretending it doesn't exist," Rosa pressed gently but resolutely. "Not anymore." After a moment's hesitation and shared looks of silent understanding, Marco nodded. "Fine," he agreed reluctantly. "But we all go together." With hearts pounding, the family filed into the garage. The flickering bulb overhead cast eerie shadows across the walls as lightning illuminated the trunk's dark form in stark relief. Every creak and groan of the house amplified their growing anxiety as they gathered around. Rosa stepped forward first. Her hands shook slightly as she grasped the rusted latch on top of the trunk and pulled it open slowly. The sound echoed hollowly in their ears, as if awakening whatever lay dormant inside for so long. As the lid creaked open, an overwhelming odor escaped, a combination of damp wood and something else indescribably sinister. The sight met them like a punch to the gut. Inside lay an assortment of items wrapped deliberately in layers of old fabric and paper, each parcel presenting more questions than answers. Rosa reached in cautiously and withdrew an old cardboard box first. As she opened it, a collection of photographs spilled forth, black and white images capturing moments frozen in time. Marco during a different chapter of his life alongside people Rosa recognized only from distant references. Shady figures known in whispered tones around town. "What are these?" Mia gasped incredulously as she glanced over her mother's shoulder at an image where Marco stood with Vito Moretti himself, grinning broadly with his arm slung around him. "They're just old photos," Marco began weakly before faltering under their curious gazes. Elena's jaw dropped as realization washed over her when she examined another photograph showing Marco involved in discussions at dining tables, shadowed by cigarette smoke and tension, an eye-opening reflection of dark alliances formed amidst secrecy. "Why do you have these?" Mia asked breathlessly. Confusion bathed her voice. Before Marco could respond, Rosa's trembling fingers returned to delve deeper into the trunk's chaotic contents. She pulled out bundles wrapped in cloth and peeled back layers one by one until revealing small, square packets full of neatly stacked cash. Dirty money that exposed affiliations far removed from their suburban facade. A wave of shock rippled through them. "No," murmured Elena softly, stepping back instinctively as if recoiling from poison. "This is not good," Marco choked out as scrunched banknotes tumbled helplessly onto their feet like autumn leaves beneath a harsh wind. Luca stood frozen at his sister's side while fear consumed them all. They were on a precipice, teetering dangerously close to uncharted territory laden with betrayal. Realization dawned upon everyone. This was not merely a forgotten relic, but rather evidence of Marco's ties to a world they had intentionally overlooked in pursuit of peace. Emotions collided in uproar. Anger soon matched the shock on every face present. The shocking truth unveiled threatened everything they knew about themselves and each other. "Dad! What is this?" Mia demanded angrily as tears pooled under her lashes. Betrayal pierced even deeper now than dread hanging over them before this revelation. Desperation cloaked Marco's demeanor as he struggled to find words that would explain how tightly entwined their lives had become with hidden crimes masked by ordinary existence. But how could he confess any further without inviting disaster, standing there amid swirling chaos unleashed like released demons before their very eyes? The once innocent trunk now morphed into a Pandora's box, one they could not close again, and echoing whispers foretold another storm brewing. One where destinies would collide irrevocably until some answers emerged through conflicting shadows wrought from years spent tight-lipped over choices long past made. Now laid bare beneath glaring revelation looming overhead amidst rolling thunder outside begging for expression, no more contained behind polished smiles or silence once thought sacred, yet shattered forevermore. The next morning, the remnants of the storm still lingered like an unshakable fog, wrapping the Romano household in an eerie silence. The family sat in the living room, each member lost in a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions, their hearts heavy with the knowledge of what they had uncovered. The atmosphere was charged with tension, and it became clear that a confrontation was inevitable. Rosa paced nervously, her mind racing. She felt the weight of their discovery pressing down on her. She had warned Marco about Vito, but now it felt like she was trapped within their secrets too. How could she stand by and let this family she cared for face the repercussions alone? Marco's earlier words echoed in her mind. "We can't keep pretending it doesn't exist." Elena broke the silence, her voice trembling slightly. "We need to talk to Vito," she declared, determination bubbling to the surface. "He needs to know we found everything." Marco nodded reluctantly, his expression grave. "You're right," he agreed, though dread washed over him at the thought of facing the Mafia boss once more. "But this time we go together. We all deserve answers." With that decision made, they gathered their courage and prepared for the confrontation ahead. They knew they couldn't face Vito without knowing exactly how to articulate their fears and feelings about his influence on their lives. When they arrived at Vito's lavish office later that afternoon, tension filled the air like a thick cloud. Every step felt like an echo against marbled floors. The room was dimly lit, adorned with opulent decor that seemed to mock their humble beginnings. As they approached his desk, Vito looked up from his paperwork, his piercing blue eyes narrowing with curiosity. Ah, the Romano family. He greeted smoothly, but with a hint of condescension. What brings you here today? Marco stepped forward first, swallowing hard as he summoned every ounce of courage within him. We need to talk about the trunk, he began, voice steady yet strained. At that instant, Rosa felt a wave of anxiety wash over her as she recalled her own earlier warnings to Vito. She wanted to protest, but kept silent. This was Marco's moment to reclaim control over his life. Trunk? Vito feigned ignorance but leaned forward slightly as if intrigued. Elena interjected before Marco could continue. Don't play games with us, Vito. We found photographs, evidence of your dealings with Marco, she said fiercely, her voice ringing in the lavish space. A flicker of surprise flashed across Vito's face before he masked it behind a smirk. I see, he replied casually as if dismissing them entirely. And what do you intend to do with this evidence? We want to understand, Mia exclaimed suddenly from behind her parents, stepping forward with unexpected bravery. Why was our father involved in this world? What does it mean for our family? All eyes turned toward Mia. She had broken through the tension enveloping them all with a plea that echoed their collective fear and confusion. Vito regarded her for a moment before responding slowly, weighing his words carefully. Your father made choices necessary for survival in my world. His tone was devoid of emotion, as if recounting mere facts rather than lives altered by decisions made. Survival? You call this survival? Luca chimed in incredulously, his small frame shaking slightly with indignation. You've put our family at risk. Enough! Marco shouted suddenly, startling everyone in the room. The rawness of his voice cut through layers of tension like a knife. It demanded respect and attention from Vito. Tell us what we need to know. Marco continued firmly but more calmly now as he looked directly into Vito's eyes. We deserve honesty after everything we've been through. Vito leaned back in his chair and considered them for what felt like an eternity, finally breaking into a chuckle laden with irony. The sound echoed unsettlingly throughout the room amidst their mounting frustration. You want honesty? He said mockingly, as though enjoying their discomfort. Truth is subjective in my world, my dear Romano family. As anger surged through Marco and Elena at Vito's nonchalant demeanor, this man who held so much power over them, their resolve solidified further. They would not cower any longer. It was clear they stood on fragile ground, where secrets intertwined tightly between loyalty and betrayal, all bound by choices made long before Mia and Luca had come into existence, now laid bare beneath glaring lights shining through dark shadows cast by choices long past, made now threatening to unravel them completely. As emotions reached a boiling point and voices rose around them, each member confronted their fears about identity amidst haunting truths shared that day. Everyone knew one thing remained true. No matter what happened next, this confrontation would change everything forevermore amidst reverberating echoes lingering long after words were spoken. The tension within the Romano household swirled like a tempest in the aftermath of their confrontation with Vito. Each family member grappled with the revelations from the trunk, and it became clear that they were not just confronting Marco's past, but also the truths that had long been buried beneath the surface of their seemingly ordinary lives. As Marco sat in silence, his heart ached under the weight of shame and fear. The photographs had not only revealed hidden ties to the Mafia, but also a side of himself he had desperately tried to keep away from his family. Mia, who was always in awe of her father, now felt a chasm open between them. "How could you?" she whispered, her voice trembling with a mix of disappointment and betrayal. This was not the strong, heroic figure she had always looked up to. This was a man entangled in decisions that endangered them all. Elena, still reeling from the shock, felt her trust shattered. The love she had for Marco tangled with anger and confusion. "You lied to us," she said, her voice breaking as she fought back tears. "How could you keep this from us?" Each word felt like a dagger aimed at the heart of their family unit. Marco's silence spoke volumes, confirming the fears swirling in her mind. He had built a wall around them, hiding not only dangerous secrets, but also vulnerabilities he believed would protect them. Rosa stood back, a small but crucial witness to the unfolding turmoil that lay heavy on everyone's hearts. She had loved the Romano family like her own, and yet all these years, she too had carried burdens she wished to shield them from. Her own connection to the underground world, and her loyalties divided. She had warned Marco about Vito out of loyalty and fear for the children, but now, as she observed the unraveling of their relationships, she felt an overwhelming guilt rise within her. Should she share her own secret with them, that she knew more than they believed about their situation? "Rosa," Luca's tiny voice broke through her thoughts. "What about you? How did you know about all this?" He stared at her with innocent yet questioning eyes that were grappled with confusion. The sudden attention shifted toward her made Rosa's heart race. But in that moment, confronting her own truth felt necessary as well. I didn't want to burden you with what I knew," she admitted softly, sorrow weaving through her tone. "But I've seen things that threatened your safety, and I understood why Marco felt he needed to keep it all hidden." Timidly, she took a step forward, hoping for understanding rather than blame. "What do you mean?" Marco bristled at first, defensive in his hurt, but curious about her intentions. "I didn't know how deep it went." Rosa hesitated before continuing. "I thought by protecting you from the truth, I was doing what was best for your family." In that moment, as she shared her fears and memories, barriers began to shift. Old alliances forged through mutual care resonated even deeper in their chaos. Mia glanced at Rosa with growing understanding. If there was one lesson amidst this maelstrom of emotions, it was that they were all bound together by choices, some made out of fear for their loved ones, and others for noble intentions obscured by secrecy. The room fell into silence as each family member absorbed the gravity of Rosa's admission. Realization dawned upon them. They were all entwined in this web of lies, but also shared the responsibility of facing down danger together. The secrets unearthed were no longer a matter of individual shame. They were now part of their collective narrative. "Then how do we fix this?" Mia asked resolutely as she stood up straight, squaring her shoulders in solidarity with her family. That defiance reminded them all that while they may have been thrust into darkness, there was still hope to reclaim light once more if they confronted it together. By being honest with each other, Elena insisted gently, no longer ready to shy away from discussing fears or uncertainties. "We need to face whatever is coming from Vito as a family, and we can't let his shadow loom over our lives any longer." As they each nodded fruitfully among themselves, the siblings holding hands across tense lines drawn by circumstances beyond their control, the Romano family found strength woven through newfound vulnerability amid chaotic winds swirling about them. They realized that revealing their truths not only pulled back layers of deception, but also laid out paths towards healing wounds with clarity they had yearned for in their collective journey ahead, through darkened days into possibilities unknown. In the days following the confrontation, the Romano family began to navigate the turbulent waters of their new reality, returning home from Vito's office with a mix of determination and uncertainty. Each family member was left grappling with feelings of betrayal, anger, and newfound resolve. The air within their home felt charged with unspoken words, but slowly, a sense of unity began to bind them together again. Marco took the lead in facing the fallout of the revelations. He gathered Mia and Luca in the living room one evening, determined to provide clarity amidst their confusion. Sitting before them, he took a deep breath, realizing he stood at a crossroads with his children's perception of him forever altered. "You both deserve to know why I made choices that put our family at risk," he started solemnly. Mia exchanged glances with Luca, her curious expression seeking answers. "You were involved with dangerous people," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Why didn't you tell us?" "Because I wanted to protect you," Marco admitted, choking on his words. "I thought keeping you in the dark would give you a chance for a better life." He looked each child in the eye, conveying sincerity and honesty with every word. "I never intended for you to carry this burden." Luca shifted nervously in his seat. "But is that why we found all that money? Why you have those pictures?" The shadow of confusion lingered on his face like an unanswered question. "Yes," Marco replied, feeling tears prick the corners of his eyes. "Those decisions haunted me, but I believed I was doing what was necessary." He paused for a moment before forcing himself to say, "When you found out about those ties to Vito, it terrified me." Elena entered just then, her presence like a calming force amid the storm haunting their home. She nodded toward Marco and softly said, "And that's why we must be honest from now on. No secrets, no lies." Her resolve showed through her earlier sorrow. She could see that shared transparency opened doors they had kept closed for too long. As they settled into this new understanding as a family unit, Rosa continued wrestling with her own fears about revealing more truths hidden beneath layers of complicity and silence. After overhearing yet another exchange between Marco and Vito at the office, only half remembered now from slipping through fear's grasp, she felt compelled to reach out further and confront instincts guiding her choices with fledgling honesty. One evening, while cleaning up around the house, she took a deep breath and quietly approached Elena in the kitchen as she prepared dinner. "Can we talk?" she asked cautiously. "Of course," Elena replied, putting down her knife. "I need to explain my own part in all this," Rosa continued earnestly, conveying vulnerability she had long held back. "I should have told you what I knew sooner." Elena set down her dishcloth and turned toward Rosa attentively. "You have always protected us. We understand." Rosa's heart raced as she spoke. "I warned Marco before because I cared about all of you, but I see now how my silence added to your pain instead of alleviating it." Elena stepped closer and placed a hand on Rosa's arm reassuringly. Whatever tension existed melted away as they connected through shared burdens once lost among secrets they both held. Meanwhile, Mia and Luca had met privately upstairs. They exchanged thoughts about their changing dynamics now that they understood how deeply their father had fought to shield them from harm, while also shattering safety along those lines already drawn. They realized their experience was colored not only by Marco's past, but also woven intricately into their shared family fabric, where love dwelt among uncertainty. We may be scared right now, Mia said quietly as they surveyed each other in quiet solidarity. But we can get through this together. Yes, Luca agreed firmly with newfound determination brightening his young eyes. We can help Dad face this. And so it began. A gradual healing within the Romano household birthed from painful truths arising amidst tenuous ties stitched anew under heaven's watch. Bonds embracing light over darkness, venturing forth along uncertain roads like phoenixes emerging into dawn anew after night fled willingly amid fleeting storms. As time marched forward after unraveling masked truths once tethered tightly beneath hushed whispers parading through shadows previously cast over them, it transformed brokenness into strength, where they could forge ahead not individually but collectively. Standing side by side against chaos, armed only by honesty, united under hope. Resurrected amidst certainty, flickering like daylight, breaking softly upon dawn's horizon, forever embraced anew, as the dust began to settle from the revelation surrounding the trunk. The Romano family found themselves in a new state of understanding, a fragile yet critical moment that called for reflection on trust, loyalty, and the impact of secrets. Each member was acutely aware that their lives had shifted dramatically. They were no longer just a family living in suburban bliss, but rather individuals intertwined with complexities born out of hidden truths. In the weeks following their confrontation, Marco took it upon himself to redefine his role as a father and husband. He recognized that trust, once broken, could not simply be repaired overnight. He initiated open dialogues with Mia and Luca, engaging them in conversations that often felt heavy but necessary. They discussed not only his past choices, but also their feelings about those revelations, painful and raw though they may be. "I need you both to understand," Marco said one evening as they sat together at dinner. "I never wanted this life for you. I thought shielding you from my past would keep you safe." His voice trembled with emotion as he looked each child in the eye, searching for understanding amidst their hurt. Mia responded candidly, "But keeping it a secret made it worse. We need to know what's going on." Her courage spoke volumes. She had transformed from a daughter seeking her father's approval into a young woman demanding honesty. Luca chimed in quietly but firmly. "We can help you now if we know everything." The realization dawned on Marco. This was not just about him anymore. It was about collectively rebuilding trust within their family unit. Meanwhile, Elena found herself reflecting on her own journey through this chaos. She realized that while she had felt anger towards Marco for hiding his past, she also needed to confront her own fears about vulnerability and honesty. During an intimate conversation with Rosa one afternoon over cups of tea, Elena admitted how isolation had taken root during years spent suppressing feelings that should have been shared openly. "Secrets fester," Rosa replied thoughtfully as she stirred her tea gently. "They can drive wedges between those we love most." Elena nodded slowly. "I want us all to move forward together," she mused aloud. "But how do we ensure this doesn't happen again?" The answer lay not only in communication, but also in nurturing loyalty among one another. A loyalty grounded in unwavering support and transparency moving forward. As they continued to navigate these evolving dynamics, Rosie decided to share her own connection to Vito's world more openly, not as a burden, but as part of the tapestry of truth woven among family ties, now revitalized through shared experience. "None of us are perfect," Rosa told them one evening when they gathered around the fireplace for warmth after dinner. "But being honest about our pasts gives us strength." Her gentle reminder prompted introspection within each family member. They began recognizing how their own actions had shaped trust over time. Some moments built foundations, while others created fractures needing repair. The conversations continued late into evenings filled with laughter as well as tears. Emotions flowed freely like rivers rushing toward healing amid rocky banks forged through trials faced together, now stripped bare amidst revelations finally uncovered. In time, Mia and Luca discovered more than just vulnerabilities. They learned resilience rooted deeply within love's embrace, where obstacles faded against shared purposes fueled by strength, arising through unity reborn anew despite previous storms weathered alongside shadows, haunting them, still echoing beneath surfaces revealed previously unseen yet deserving acknowledgement, fully embraced wholeheartedly along journeys yet traveled before them. Leading forth brightly beckoning adventure laid ahead, awaiting patiently pressed forward eagerly upon eager hearts, once shyly reserved down pathways filled freshly uncharted, revealing possibilities abound born anew. As days turned into weeks, and then months filled with renewed purpose, guiding hands united fortifying bonds against impending storms beyond. Trust evolved, shaping relationships firmly reinforced amidst newfound clarity ushered forth within threads once obscured, tangled throughout long nights filled endlessly shared moving ever onward toward futures brightened warmly illuminating horizons beckoning lovingly holding steady against chaos threatening willingly closed forevermore.